My name is Jani Roman, and this is my podcast, Light Behind the Words. Thoughts about life and about being a human being. Research and mysteries hand in hand. I had really amazing and wonderful discussion with Alemka Dauskardt. I'm so grateful that I had a chance to have this dialogue with her. She has so long and rich experience about constellations work, also with Bert Hellinger, many years studied with him. So please listen to our discussion here. Okay, hi Alemka.
Hello, Jani.
And welcome to my podcast. In Finnish it is Valo, sanojen takana, which is in English Light Behind the Words, the name of my podcast.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you're very much welcome to this discussion about constellations. And you have a long career with constellations. You're a psychologist. You have done constellations since 90s. And you are also trained in counseling, trauma work, gestalt therapy, and systemic constellations. And where I did see you first was in this Facebook group, Constellations According to Hellinger International Forum, which I thought was really good place to see Hellinger texts. So thank you for sharing those there. Yeah. So what has been your path? How did you come in contact with constellations, and what has happened to you through all these years from 90s?
Oh, yes, it's been a long journey. In other ways, it also went very quick and it felt very natural and it had its organic kind of progression. But I came across constellation work when I was living in Australia. I'm Croatian born, but I migrated to Australia when I was 27 with my family, and there I studied after I did my psychology studies. I enrolled into Gestalt therapy course at the Gestalt Institute of Melbourne, and there as a trainer. I was lucky that 1 year suddenly this wonderful person from UK appeared. It was Judith Hemming, who was a Gestalt therapist and who also just started using constellations herself, and she introduced that work to us then in Melbourne. I think 95 it was. So it was quite, I was taken aback by that. I was like, wow, what is this? But of course, was very eager to learn more. But there were very few opportunities, of course, none in Australia, very few in the world, really, to learn this work. So I did go to Germany and went to ZIST, which then was the organization starting to offer international training in constellations with Bert Hellinger present, of course. So that was really that's where my journey started with learning from Bert Hellinger and then later from others. And it's just happened naturally that in my profession as a psychologist and in my work in various areas, started actually applying the insights and the knowledge that I learned through constellation intensives and courses. And bit by bit, I just shifted completely to doing only constellation work and nothing else. And for many years now, it is all I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So the constellations took you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it often happens to many of us. We just actually feel taken by it, and we feel drawn to it, and we feel called by in some ways, and many times in these last 30 years, sometimes I felt like I wanted to take a different path, but I couldn't. So, it
Yeah.
sometimes feels like it's not entirely a matter of free will and our own choice.
No. No.
Mm.
Yeah. It is so much about the core of being a human being. What I feel this constellation work. So it's very intuitive also. So it's quite easy to understand, even though it's not so easy to explain what it is. But when you experience it, you really get touched by the work, and it affects you.
Yes, of course, it goes straight to the core, and it
Yeah.
touches this something in us. Yeah, it is our core, and I sometimes like to say our true nature, or
Mm.
it touches that essence in us. And in that essence, in our essence, we are also connected then to the essence of life, and also to the essence of other people, and their issues that they bring. So it's like an instant connection. It is the essence which really connects us all, and which enables us to these connections to the essence, I believe, is what enables this work.
Mm. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, as you know, of course, very powerful, and I can't see what other methods or means are better suited, for us to
Yeah.
use as a vehicle to our own, empowerment, enlightenment, or, coming to our essence and our senses, or beyond
Mm.
our senses.
Yeah, I share that. So you have been in contact with constellations and Bert Hellinger since 19s. And how do you see how this work has been evolved through all these years? What has changed? What is different now than it was on the 90s? What do you think?
Um, well, it's now, 30 years really, or it is 40 years really, since 40 something years since Hellinger kind of developed this approach and started using it. So in these 40 years, I would say a lot has changed, and constellations as an approach has never stopped developing and changing. So from the beginning, it's just like kept evolving, I would say. And of course, Bert went through many different phases, and yeah, he was never still. And I remember then when I started learning, there were like the opportunities to see Bert work were not that many. So I remember seeing him one year and thinking, oh wow, this is amazing, and I want to learn this. And I was trying to understand it and apply it, and just when I was thinking, I was getting there, then I would see him work in a year or in a 2 years time, and like, oh, it would be different. He
Mm.
kept moving, um, and of course the biggest change, maybe the most important change in all these transformations of the work, is the movement from the classical family constellations to the new or spiritual constellations, as he called it. So that kind of was a bit more drastic change, a more pronounced change in terms of happened somewhere else, 2007, 2008, 9, 10, around that time, where he really changed his type of work, and the format changed a bit, and the whole his whole approach, I suppose, to this work has changed significantly. Of course, it's all part of the same continuum. It was, it's all constellation work, we could say, but there is a difference between old and new, to that extent that in 2010 he basically proclaimed the old family constellation had finished.
Okay.
So yeah, it's also controversial, and different people took it in a different way. But I think this is one really important aspect of Hellinger's constellations, that they kept evolving and kept changing. And Bert was
Mm.
just following these changes. Of course, he wasn't the inventor of the forces which actually guide this work. He wasn't maybe not even the inventor of the method, maybe, yes, we could say. And it wasn't him doing all this transformation. I mean, he was taken along, and he was obviously in the service of other forces, and he didn't have much choice in that. But he stayed open to it, and he followed that, and he exposed himself always in the work to new insights and to what comes through the field. And
Mm.
he was following. He wasn't inventing these.
Okay. I
Knows it.
think there are some central things that you say here that he was following, he was opening himself to, and there were forces that were working through him. And this is like in one constellation, actually, what happens. I was in 2007 there in Austria, in Pichl, in his training. Maybe we saw there.
I was
There
there
were so
also
many people that it's
to
difficult to remember all those people, but some good friends I got from that trip. And I remember he called that time, he like launched the new name. It was Hellinger Sciencia, but I don't see that anymore so much used. How do you call constellation work today?
Well, I personally call it constellations according to Hellinger, and there are reasons why I do that. Maybe I can say a bit more about that later. But yeah, Hellinger Sciencia is just the name that he came up with at that time, especially when he started working with his second wife, Sophie Hellinger. It was like the name of the organization that they established and the name of the school through which they provided this trainings in Pickle and elsewhere. But it was also how Hellinger called his whole opus, or what he contributed to, to the development of constellations. And for me, it means he actually says it. It's a science of the relationships. Hellinger Sciencia is a science
Mm.
of relationships, and it's science about life, really, and about love in every regard and every respect. So it is like his whole life's work, all the insights that came to him. And that's another important thing. He also mentions often that the insights and the wording and a lot of things that he wrote, that it came to him. So that's important to keep in mind. So it wasn't coming out of his head. So he also said it was coming from elsewhere. So all these insights that he gained, and the method that developed and everything, he called that Hellinger Sciencia. So it's a Hellinger science, and I think it's a
Mm.
good name. It is a good name to what he developed and what it entails, because constellations are not only a method. It is not only a technique. Constellations, especially constellations according to Hellinger, they are a system of knowledge. So they have their, it's like a body of knowledge, which also forms a system and which concerns all aspects of our lives and of our relationship. So I think it's very fit to call it Hellinger Sciencia. But yeah, today it is mainly it's equated with the organization and the school, which is now run by Sophie Hellinger. So sometimes it is equated with that only, but it is really a term that Hellinger himself coined, and I think it's an apt term.
Okay. I think that was also a good explanation that there is this method and then there is this understanding, and they are interwoven together. They support each other. And you said that Hellinger got these insights, they were given to him. So I hear this phenomenological approach that you're open to see. You are not just guided by a theory, but the theory is always updated through what you see. So this, I have understand, is very central, this phenomenological approach in this work.
Yes.
What do you see, or what is your understanding? What is really the essence of constellations? The really the core points, or I know this is really big question. In some way, it's quite maybe easy to answer, but yeah, there are so many things. What do you see? How do you see the essence of constellation work?
Oh, well, yes, there are so many ways in which one can answer that question. It's because there are so many ways in which one can understand, or approach constellations. And it is true that many different people see it in a different way and understand it differently from me, from you, or from anyone else. So I sometimes say there are as many constellation approaches as there are constellators. Because we have different approach to it and different understanding. There is a lovely quote by Rudolf Steiner, which says, what is given to you depends on your reception of it. So
Yeah.
also what we were given by Bert and what we take from him just depends on how we perceive his influence and his contribution. Yes, it is not just a method. There is this whole, as we said, system of knowledge, and there is this phenomenological approach, and there is method or some certain techniques, often of setting up representatives or something like that. And it is possible to, or some people think it is possible to separate the two. So to just use the method, but not to take any like theory or any, there is no theory in constellations according to Hellinger, really. There's no theory. There is just a collection of insights which we arrived to experiential. Yeah? This is or phenomenologically. Yeah? So there is no theory. But yes, some people think, no, we don't want any insights of Hellinger. We don't want that body of knowledge. We just use the method, and then we put it into our context, be it a psychotherapy context or trauma therapy or attachment theory context, or we put it in a different context and we just use the method. That's why I like calling what I do and kind of this original, more or less, approach, constellations according to Hellinger, just to make a difference, that this is, or to emphasize that it is not just a method, but it is also resting on the insights, the systemic insights that we that Hellinger received and that we got through him. So, and I think this is very important, and this is what the constellation work for me rests upon. Yes, you can use just a method. You can set up representatives, and I believe the field gets activated anyhow. So representatives always receive some information. What you're going to do with it, with this information or with the method, or how you're going to approach it, you can put it in any context or any cult. But for me, this original Hellinger's approach, which I try to follow, and not because I try to follow a guru, which I'm often accused of, but because I truly see that this is that this approach has got the most power, and that it is in connection to this essence, and it's precisely because of that, because of this connection with the forces of life and death that basically we rely on in constellations according to Hellinger. This is what makes this approach so powerful and so strong and so helpful to so many people. So I don't want to strip it away from that, and I just want to use method and put it into this context and that. I don't want to talk about spirit or these higher forces or anything. I can just keep it a bit, more how should I say, more proper and mainstream and more explainable, and then I'm in control a bit more of that, and I'm a bit more knowledgeable, and I can say it's, that's my development of constellation work. Of course, Hellinger, especially towards the end, moved right into this, we could say, spiritual realm. I know this word is corrupted, but I don't have any other word to use, and there's no need. He was very clear especially in his later phase, as I said, that everything that happens, and each one of us, and everything that exists is being moved by a creative force. He called that force spirit mind. We could, call it however, or maybe not give it a name at all, because it can't really be named. And he was very clear that this force is what makes all life happen, but also that this is the force which makes the constellation process happen, and healing and reconciliation. So it is that which actually does the work and which brings about change, positive change and healing, if we want.
Yeah, yeah. I like that idea that Hellinger said, that this spirit mind thinks us, that we are thoughts of spirit mind.
Yes, that
Yeah,
it thinks us into existence. Yeah,
yes,
has that
yes.
component. Very nice,
I,
isn't
yeah, I remember 2007 there in Pichl, how Bert opened. There was a little bit some music first, but then he started to speak. It was really, I felt all the days from 9 to morning to 9 to evening, that what he said was really in the center. It was really, yeah, it's difficult to describe the feeling, to really listen him to speak there and do the constellations. But his opening words were that many people are trying to put constellations in the box of psychotherapy, but it doesn't fit there. It is a spiritual act. And this was really that, okay, oh, wow, I have to think about this, what he really means. Yeah. And in some layer, I feel really the same way, that I can understand that. When I have been following this constellation field in the world, in Finland, and read Hellinger's books, for example, this starting from this Love's Hidden Symmetry, and then his this latest books that he wrote. So, what do you think about my analysis, that how his interest changed or evolved? Was it so that on the 90s it was more on the dynamics of the family members, what is happening between them? And then in the end, his interests were more on that what is our relationship with a greater force? Am I on the wrong path?
No, it's um, I understand your question and what you mean. Um, uh, I don't know. It's not that much that I think the focus shifted from like one theme to the other, or from one area to a different to a different thing or different level. I would say that's how I understand that his approach to every theme in life, or his view of everything has changed. In his later years, the systemic dynamics remained. It was
Mm,
like his insights into the systemic dynamics and how how they operate in us. And for example, these his insights about the importance of the balance of giving and taking, or for example, or his insights on guilt and innocence, or or that those who came first into the system had a priority over those who came later. Then representation of these excluded family members, then compensation for wrongdoings and things like that. So these are all the dynamics that, of course, that still operate in every family. And his insights into that, I mean, it was just quite phenomenal that he understood how most of these things happen in life, or really what lies behind these common situations or common problems, common situations which cause us difficulties in life. He understood what is behind it,
mm.
what is behind illness, what is, yeah.
Yeah. And can this be called conscience? Is this conscience that binds us unconsciously to other people in our family system,
Yes, you could say
which
that,
is
and yes.
which is other name for love, also blind love.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
and yeah, good that you mentioned conscience. That was, of course, another great contribution of Hellinger's. His insights about conscience and understanding the role and function of conscience in our families and in our groups, human groups.
yeah,
Um, like even in bigger national groups or national systems, the fact that he understood. And he says, until me, until me, no one understood the role of conscience. And it's true.
yes,
You look at
yes,
all the big philosophy schools, or not to mention therapy, different therapy schools. I mean, they don't usually bother with such issues and themes. But like, if you look in all the philosophy schools, no one understood the role of conscience. So for him to understand it, to have insights about it, and to come to this understanding in a phenomenological way, because he says he exposed himself to these insights through constellation work for 7 years until he understood the role of conscience. So this is how he arrived to his insights. So it is just a phenomenal contribution. So even if it was just that one contribution, that he made, it would be quite enormous. Because it is enormous. And I think sometimes we constellators, there's so many constellators today in the world and so many people practicing constellations. My feeling is that we still don't understand fully the greatness of Bert Hellinger's teachings and insights and what came through him, really.
yeah,
And as I said, all these family dynamics or systemic dynamics, importance of that, how it's just amazing how he mapped out for us this territory, which we didn't know before. We didn't know how it works. What is behind illness? What is behind addiction? What is behind depression? What is behind anxiety, panic attacks? I mean, we didn't know anything of that about that. And he just showed us what basically stays behind almost every difficult condition, illness, be it physical, be it mental.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you, follow these teachings, or why wouldn't you study these insights, and why wouldn't you, rely on them as you, as you work?
Yeah. Yeah, they are really great insights and really giving us new possibilities to understand ourselves and our lives. And for me, this conscience, when I started to understand it, it was really like a domino effect. What happens in us, in me, in other people, how this conscience binds me and binds others, this blind love, unconscious conscience, that is really behind. It is love, it is affection, it is love. But we don't understand. And I think, as you said, it is not really understood yet. If we look about this times psychological theories, for example, attachment theory, which I think is really great, and it's quite logical that there is this child, mother, child, father dynamics and how it affects the child. But I think there is this shadow of conscience that when we look at the attachment theory, we look what did the child get from the mother or father and what she didn't get and how it affects the life of the child. And it's very logical, it is true. But at the same time, we may miss that in this child is also love. She loves her mother, she loves her father, and this binds the child to her parents. It's not just that what parents give or don't give. It is also this child who him or herself takes from the parents, their loads, their sufferings. And as we see in constellations, it's not just one generation, it can be 2 generations or 3 generations if there happened very difficult things. How the child, from the love, start to carry their weights. And this is this conscience, this is this blind love. It is love, with big letters, love.
There's one other word which really needs to be said here, and this is belonging. So it
Mm.
is the child does it, yes, out of blind love. Hellinger named it like that, yes, and there's certainly love involved, but there is also a need to belong. So the child cannot survive by itself. So if you just look at it on a pure survival instinct level, and a lot of these dynamics that we see in constellation work are actually related to this basic survival level.
Yeah,
So it is about us, like we need, as children we need to belong, otherwise we cannot survive. Therefore we will do everything to belong. That means, we will try to yeah, help our parents because without them we can't survive, and all sorts of kind of entanglements happen in that way. So yeah, it is this, what is behind this conscience which binds us together is blind love. It's done through blind love, but of course it's not about feelings. It is about our need to belong, our survival instinct to belong. And also for survival of the family group, it is crucial that no one is excluded just as a matter of fact, just as without proper reason, or in terms of the wisdom of the conscience, or the rules of the conscience are that no one can be excluded, from the group. So it also looks after the wholeness of the group. So yes, it's his insights into conscience, of course, are very, very important and unique. And what is unique and what really I believe he referred to when he said no one understood the role and the nature of conscience until now, is that so far, in philosophy, in history, in religion, everywhere, we link conscience, or in our common day understanding, we link conscience with morality, with
Yeah.
with good and bad. And he said
Yeah.
conscience hasn't got anything to do with good and bad. That is his biggest insight. In his own words, he said, these are my own, this is my biggest contribution, that I realize that there is no good and bad.
Yes. Only love
Yeah,
that binds people together, also to the bad ones.
exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
what we deem bad and what we deem good only depends on the groups we belong to. So
Yeah.
what is classified as good in our group or as bad in our group.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is very crucial to Hellinger's constellations. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And it's also, you can see it in other animals also, especially in mammals, how it is surviving, that the child animals are attached to their parents, and what kind of bonds there are between them. So it is really life that wants to survive through these bonds, that we
Exactly.
take care of each other.
Exactly. And it has got very little to do, when you say it's got to do with love, it's true, but then you risk this being mistaken as like an emotion, to be it on an emotional level.
Yeah,
It's got nothing to do with emotions, actually. It has
it's
got
biological.
it's got to do with our survival instincts, and also this like attachment, our attachment to mother and our mother's attachment to us. It is crucial for our survival. That's why it is it is so important, not because we want this nice and fluffy feeling and we didn't have it from our mother who was emotionally distant. So this goes totally to a different level, to match this kind of more primal level of instincts of survival, and of the whole, on the systemic level, of course, where okay, the attachment to our mother, or we could say attachment of mother to us, that is one aspect of the story, but there is so much more to it. It is, okay, why is this mother not able to be emotionally present? Of course, in Hellinger's constellation, we have this whole other systemic level visible to us, where we can see what has happened, and with like to whom the mother is loyal, maybe, or it's like all this other, so much richness. So I don't understand why we need to. I think by using constellations just in this way, that we look into like psychological issues, what I call psychological issues of attachment, or even trauma. If we just go, if we remain on this like almost individual psychological aspect, then we don't look into this other wider systemic aspect, which is available to us through constellations. So why not include it if we can?
Yeah, expand our understanding. Uh, I'm thinking about this spirituality. Has it something to do with this conscience, which is, we could say that it's biological from the origin? It is life that wants to survive. So then life created conscience that animals or human beings take care of each other. They are bound to each other. But is this spirituality in a way to understand this conscience? You say that in constellations it comes visible, this loyalties, these binds that we have. So is it that we start to understand this conscience in a new way, which makes us more free to love? If before that we were this conscience that helps us to survive, and I suppose it has helped us that we are still here. This conscience that has helped us, but it has also we have been bound. We have been also in how I would say in the jail of conscience, and now this new understanding helps us to come out also from this. Not saying that it's not true anymore. It is true, but having a totally new perspective, which is more free, which helps us to be more clear with our love. That hate is not the solution, or it's wrong said that, but there's this really the love behind in us. Can you follow my thoughts?
Yes.
What do you think about this?
Yes, I think you said it very well, and I think it is quite crucial. And Hellinger himself said that really the old family constellations had a lot to do with conscience and understanding how it works. But that it also remained, in a sense, trapped in this field of conscience, in a particular field of conscience. And as long as we stick to kind of these rules, there is no solution on a higher level, we could say. It's like conscience it remains on the level of the soul, and the soul can also be very that level can we can also get entangled on that level, on the level of the soul, because for example, like if there's an excluded person, the family soul will recruit someone from, like, usually a child, to represent the excluded member. So that's a solution, on the level of the soul, we could say, but what solution? It's not good for everyone. It's not good for that child to live a life of someone else. So then you have to go on the next level, really, on the level of the spirit, where we are not bound by these rules of conscience of the soul level. So if you go to this next level, I could say it like that. I know doesn't sound perfectly well, sounds like a video game. You are
Yeah.
on the next level, but you know what I mean. If you go, it is possible to go beyond these laws of conscience, and to go to the spiritual conscience, which basically there are no distinctions of good and bad, or this group or that group, or now this person is excluded, individual is excluded, another one has to suffer because of that. So we just bypass, in a sense, all these like systemic entanglements which happen on a soul level, and which are bound by particular conscience, always conscience of the group, conscience of the family. So we go on the level of the spiritual conscience, where there is no us and them, there is no compensation for what happened. Someone has to compensate for what happened before, which wasn't right. So it's just, we just lose all these distinctions, and we are on a completely different level. And this is exactly the level that I believe Hellinger went to with his new spiritual constellations, because
Okay.
suddenly you are not interested anymore in the story, in the details, into who's been excluded, into you are not even interested in solving a particular problem, or you haven't got a goal of healing someone. You just, like, all of that just goes away. And it is really, I think, a very significant movement which happened within family constellations, or within systemic constellations, however you want to call it. And this is what I believe spiritual constellations are about, and what constellations, according to Hellinger, are about. And this is also which was the cause for much of separation and conflict. Really, there are many people who did not or could not follow this, or birth into this type of work. But it is quite crucial, yeah, that question that you so beautifully asked, and I think it's really, that's the essence of the difference maybe between the old and the new. But I have here the the quote that just came up for me yesterday. And I just want to read it. It's not very long, but it is Bert Hellinger actually talking about that and saying what is the difference. And I think he, of course, as you say, he goes straight to the essence.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Read, please. Yeah.
okay, thank you. So in family constellations, light was cast on hidden connections that moved us beyond the ideas of personal distress and help. Suddenly, the focus shifted from the client alone. At the same time, help came from elsewhere. This guidance relegated the helper into the background. So the helper then also became a client who needed assistance from outside and also received it. The practitioners were similarly taken into possession by other powers, and they were on the same level as the clients who sought their help. The helpers also depended on the same creative movements. They were at their mercy in the same way. In the practitioners and in the rest of the participants, another consciousness came through, far beyond the relationships of I and you. The I that wanted something was taken along by an us, in which it ended as an I in the usual sense, including any prior ideas of good and bad, better or worse, even of healthy and sick. So it's no more here I am, a constellation practitioner, and there's a client, or however you want to call it, a person who needs help, and I'm here to apply some methods or to do something, yeah, or to do some interventions or even give some sentences and things like that, and I fix something for the client. I decided what needs to be set up, and yeah, maybe I move something, or no, it's finished. So in this type of work, the constellator also surrenders completely to the movements of the spirit and is taken by that. Yeah? So
Yes.
and help comes from elsewhere. And so there is no constellator and client, there is no us and them, there is no I, only us. And in this way, everyone is taken in by these movements. So the whole group is affected. So it's not
Yeah.
like a constellator works with this particular person on that particular issue. No, this is now, it's so it's really is I believe a significant change. And yes, it
Yeah.
is not easy to work in that way. It requires people think, oh, you just leave it to the movements of the spirit and you don't have to do nothing. It's easier, but it's actually much more difficult to hold the field in that way, to surrender to that extent, to trust the movements, and to kind of surrender your own personal power, knowledge, and experience, as a constellator, to completely submit together with a person and with a whole group to these movements of the spirit.
So it's like facing together what opens, facing the life together.
Exactly.
And
And
you need
and
to be humble.
exactly, and only exposing ourselves to the insights, so which come at the same time for the constellator and for the person and for the whole.
Mm. Yeah. So, so interesting. So, yeah, I remember I had the chance to walk with Bert once there to the lunch. And I said to him that how grateful I am for this work he has been doing, and it has helped so many people. And he looked at me and smiled and said, "Well, it's life." And I thought it is something like this, that it's not a constellation, it's not one who is a constellator, it is life. How we approach life. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. How
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah, because it is all constellations are life too, you know. and
yeah.
and
It's a way to focus on life in a special with a special state of mind.
and to actually, I mean, constellations are of course not outside of life or outside of problems or out, you know, it's like we are all carried by the same river, you know, in the
Mm,
same way, in the same direction, you know, all of us. So uh, it's, yeah, it can't be that separation, you know, and what is a constellator then separate from, no one can be above these movements. So really in constellations we just shine the light on a particular, maybe particular area in the river, we just shine the light, but it is that river of life which carries us all along, and it is us just shining a light and having a look at it. And maybe what I like to say, what the expression that I like to use is, we expose ourselves, we expose
mm,
ourselves not only to the insights but to the workings of these forces, because this is what does the work in constellations, you know, this
mm.
is what makes things happen. um,
Yeah.
I really feel sometimes that, or you know, in the last, I don't know, decade or so, that we have, the whole constellating field has moved away from that, and now we have like so many popular constellators, and we have, you know, these master facilitators and master trainers, and there's a lot of emphasis on individuals, you know, on individual names, or you know, I do work in this way, or I make this development of constellations, or you know, I'm a very experienced constellator, or you know. So what does it mean? What does it mean to put such an emphasis on me and my way of working, you know? That immediately means that we are actually not uh, exposing ourselves and surrendering ourselves fully to the spirit and to the workings of the spirit. So it is, I think, I mean, that's a bit of a professional hazard for constellators, and even more so, I think, for psychotherapists as well. This is what we take from psychotherapy. Sometimes I think we think ourselves much more important, really, than we are, you know, and much more in charge or much more responsible for, you know, the people who come to us for help. It is not us. It is not us doing the work. If anything good happens, it happens, you know, as they say, by the grace of God.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also a question at who are we? Who is I? Have I invented myself? Have I invented my ability to got insights? So it's really a deep question, that who are we and what are we doing? What is happening through us actually? Yeah,
Exactly. And how can we, you know, what does, if I'm in that role of a constellator, but it's just a role, you know, I'm of course on the same level as a person
yeah,
who's coming, you know,
we are.
and yeah, it is just we both are part of something bigger, and we
Yeah.
both are carried, in a particular way by this force, or, spirit, mind, how Bert called it. So we just. I think there is not enough awareness of that, and yeah, not a big part of constellating field, I think, is approaching constellation work like
Mm.
this. So it's yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good that you bring up this issue. It's good to think about that and feel feel what I really think about this work. Mm, yes, I
And
think you have. Yeah,
sorry,
say
I
about.
just wanted here to add this. I mean,
Yeah,
this is why I like saying constellations according to Bert Hellinger, or to Hellinger.
yeah.
It is not constellations according to me or to you or to anyone else. So not even to Bert Hellinger. His
Mm,
persona and his name is not so important. Um, but in saying that, okay, these are constellations according to Hellinger, at least we can keep our own egos, separate egos, in check a bit. Yeah. So, and of course, it's not, as I said, this is not a work that Hellinger invented. Neither he wanted to be remembered for posterity, or he didn't want this adulation, to him. So um, it's like bowing to something bigger than us. For
mm,
me, I find I can easier do that if I say, yeah, I'm doing constellations according to Hellinger. And according to Hellinger, it means like doing how he did it. First of all, using phenomenological approach, and then secondly, bowing totally and surrendering to these forces of spirit. This is constellations according to Hellinger, and this is what
mm,
Hellinger himself did. So he didn't put himself on a pedestal. No, he knew where his place was. So
mm.
I wish more constellators also approach it like that, and do it from that space.
I think we learn by example that we see people who do it, and I think that's actually our main way to learn things, not by reading books, but to seeing what is the presence of one person, and that gives us insights, and we learn by that. I remember that Hellinger wrote somewhere that it was about leading these constellations, facilitating them, that there are moments you have to have courage to be big. And then when the moment is over, you have to have courage to become small again. I thought it was very beautifully said also what the work is to work like this. Then we can understand in many ways what is to be big, what is to be small, but I hear there this humbleness that let it happen what is coming. Yeah.
Yes, and of course, as you know yourself, I'm sure it is not an easy path, and it requires quite a bit from someone to step into that role. To have the courage to step into that role, to have the courage to expose oneself to all sorts of themes and issues which can surface, and all sorts of clients. So it's yeah, it does take a lot um, from the person. So it's not an easy path. And I would say yes, we learn by role models or observing others how they do it sometimes. But I also think it is a very a personal path, and very
Mm.
individual. So each one of us has to go through like kind of do a crash course, and of course our own personal growth and our own spiritual growth. I think it's a path of learning constellations is like a spiritual discipline. So, like, I think it is this development that makes or breaks a constellator, so to speak. So it is, and these insights we did receive many from Hellinger, but we actually have to arrive or test them, arrive to them ourselves as well through our work. Otherwise, we don't make them ours. So it is. Yeah, we have to find our own relationship with this work and our own relationship with the spirit, we could say. Each one does it in a different way. Each one of us is carried along, that path in a different way. Yeah.
I think life must have a funny time to look at us people thinking these things and trying to find ourselves and who are we in relation to life.
Exactly, and yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes I think uh, life is really laughing at us
yes,
and at our efforts, and also in particular, in our attempts to make ourselves bigger. Yeah.
yes, yes,
So it is exactly that humbleness that you beautifully mentioned, and knowing our own size and our own place in the bigger scheme
mm,
of things. This is
yeah,
essential for us to live good lives and also to be good constellators. So it
mm,
is like, and that size in relation to the big mysteries of life, of course, and the forces which operate, in it all. Really, in all of that, we are very, very, very small. So,
yeah,
yes, part of the constellator's path, I think, is arriving to that insight. So,
yeah,
I see you are well on your way.
yeah. And maybe life is laughing through us also.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Spirit mind is thinking us. Uh, I think we have had really rich and beautiful discussion and about this spirituality of this work. What is constellation? How it has evolved through all the years. I still have two specific questions. It feels a little bit minor questions actually compared to what we have been discussing here, but I'm interested in. So one question is that in what role is transactional analysis in Hellinger's work? How he has maybe changed or evolved? And the second, I asked both questions at the same time. The second is left and right. Where does it come from that left is mother side, right is father side? I know it is in Chinese medicine and many Eastern traditions. There is this left is feminine side, right is masculine side. Yeah, and this is also because I've seen many constellators to do their work, and some people emphasize more. Some are very strict of this left and right, and also this transactional analysis. Some people doesn't mention them at all.
Is
How do you see what was Hellinger's? Yeah,
is this your modality? Do you practice that? Do you practice TF?
no,
Or were you trained in that?
no. I know them well. For example, transactional analysis, I know it well.
All right, I
I
tried.
more follow conscience and love than, yeah. Yeah, please.
Yeah, well, I'll just try to briefly answer, or offer my view on this. I don't know if there are the answers about this right and left side. What I see that connected with, or what I can imagine this connects with in Hellinger's teaching is this order of family members in the family, where the man comes first. So the first there's a man, then the wife, then the oldest, the firstborn, then the secondborn, then the thirdborn, yeah? or conceived. So in that sense, yeah, the man is like, okay, you can say on the right, the woman is on the left, but for me, it's like it goes in the direction of the clock. Yeah? So it's like a man and a woman and firstborn and secondborn. And this is usually the good order in a constellation when we used to do like classical family constellations
Yes.
in the past, or a good seating at the dinner table, order. So yeah, I think it's got to do with that. In the sense that, yeah, the man comes. So if I imagine also my parents behind me, I imagine first, father, and then, my mother here on this side, so, but I think it's got to do with that order of the man comes first, because of course there are reasons why, for survival again, aspects of the family, man has to come first as a protector, as a provider, as someone who ensures the physical survival of the family. So yeah, that's that order. With there was a lot of backlash about this statement that a man comes first, but this is how it is in this systemic
Yeah,
way.
yeah. I follow that, and I remember Hellinger to explain it. This clockwise, father, man first, then mother, and by that way, mother actually is in the center of the family, closest to the child, and father is serving mother, that mother can do her work in the family. Yeah,
Yes, exactly. Or Bert used to say, the man comes first, and that's how he serves the feminine. That's how the
yeah,
masculine serves the feminine.
yeah,
So yeah, it is something about that.
yeah,
And that's how it seems that that's how it works the best. Yeah, our families and
yeah,
our relationships. So yeah, and in constellations we keep to that natural order, to what is, as much as possible. Yeah, because we see that when we respect that order, that our relationships simply work better. So
yeah. Have you seen this Another Self Netflix
yes, yeah, I have.
program? I noticed that there was this that on the left side of, was it kidney or something like that, there was a problem with one person. So the doctor, the Ada, who was in the central person there, she started to think it is something to do with the maternal side of the family. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't comment on that. I mean, like in constellation work, I think you can never make, that means the left side is connected with the mother.
Yes.
Or you've got problems with lungs, that has got to do with grief. Or you have cancer, breast cancer, this has got to do with the mother. There are certain commonalities, generalities that we observe, but I mean, it doesn't pay to say, this means that or this means that. I mean,
Yeah, that's nice to hear from you, because then we lose the phenomenological approach. If we are this, if we already have decided that this means this means that.
exactly.
Yeah, I
It's,
actually asked also Chat GPT what it thinks about this.
oh, I don't want to know.
You don't. Uh, I think you want to know. Actually, it was really. It's amazing when it came. This AI came. It didn't know so much about constellation. The answers were not so good, but I am surprised how it answers now. I did ask what is ChatGPT's view for this left side, and then I explained this that I think it's maybe not so categorized. So here is the answer. I find your idea that placing too much emphasis on the left and right sides could lead one astray to be very valid. The essence of constellation work, as you have observed, lies more in understanding these deeper emotional and systemic movements and connections rather than adhering to external symbolic orders. When facilitating constellations with a focus on love, conscience, and the dynamics of guilt and acceptance, it opens up a much richer and deeper way of working with the family system. This flexible and systemic approach also helps to avoid the rigidity that could limit the living and flowing nature of constellation work.
he's very he or she is very clever, this artificial brain and artificial intelligence that we have now. Of course, these are all sentences that were said or written by someone, by some
Yes.
human. And yeah, sure, I'm sure that it's got
Yeah.
a great application, this AI, in our lives. And yet I see that it can never replace the original, natural, creative, cosmic intelligence which is at work, and in which is at work in constellations. So it can never, be more clever than a spirit mind, of course. So
No.
and this is what is, what in constellations we do, that we put the spirit mind, above everything, and we see what are what movements it supports, or what it says, so to speak. We listen to that in constellations.
Maybe ChatGPT has listened to you or someone else.
Maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But that is always, that as clever as we can be, and have
Yeah.
that much experience and knowledge,
Yeah.
we can never, be as clever as the spirit mind. So
Yeah.
this is just
Mm.
another
It.
force, not
Yeah.
human making. So
No.
thinking that AI, so which is basically human generated intelligence, can can take over, or can, be above the natural cosmic intelligence. For me, I think this is totally displaced. But anyway, that's a
It,
side issue.
yeah. It's a tool.
It's a tool,
It's
yes,
a tool for us.
yes.
Yeah.
So
And then was this, I think
today,
this left hand side was quite good discussed.
yes, yes.
Or do you want to add something
No,
more
no, I
about?
was just wanting briefly to comment on this TA question, if
Yeah.
you wanted. Well, Eric Berne, he developed this, what he calls script analysis. Yeah, so basically, he believed that each individual's lives unfolds according to a specific pattern. That's like a life script. Yeah. And Byrne believed that these scripts are usually based on early parental messages, on internalized parental messages. That was his belief. But of course, Hellinger in that recognized something more. There's something more which drives our life scripts than that. But he realized that that really helped Hellinger to realize this systemic aspect. So there is a script. So our lives follow some scripts. How come? What lies behind these scripts? So that really alerted him to this systemic dimension. But like later in TA, that dimension was completely dropped. So it just
Yes.
went, in a different way. And of course, the systemic dimension became crucial for constellation approach. But maybe just briefly to say with that maybe that's something also that people are not aware of how many different therapy modalities Hellinger was trained in and was familiar with and was influenced by, and with from each modality, like he took something, but then said, oh, this is not the whole story, and then developed it, and then put it all together in his approach. Like, for example, he was trained, he had a training in I mean, not to mention his first, like his missionary period in Africa, and his being a school principal of many 150, he was responsible for 150 schools in Africa, and of course the Catholic order. But after that, he was like trained as a first in psychoanalysis. He went to first in US, trained in group therapy, group dynamics therapy, then went to Vienna and studied classical psychoanalysis. He was trained in classical psychoanalysis, After that, he again went to America and studied with Janov, with primal scream therapy, then transactional analysis, then NLP, then family therapy, of course, then hypnotherapy with Milton Erickson. Then he was also influenced by this Bosso Romani Nagy, who had the book,
Mm.
the therapy based on these invisible loyalties, as he called it. From each, from each of these trainings or educations, Hellinger took some important aspects, and you can see, bits and pieces of it contained in constellations, but then he also made it a very original integrative approach, which was really very, very Hellinger's and very, very much his. And of course, he was influenced by the Zulu in South Africa. Carlos Castaneda, for example, was like the writings of Carlos Castaneda were quite a big influence on Hellinger as well. But he says, my biggest teachers were clients and perpetrators.
Mm.
So from then he learned the most. So people he worked with, and particularly from perpetrators.
So from the evil people, bad people.
So-called. So-called.
Yeah, love is really strange.
So yeah, you can see the elements of maybe TA or
Yeah,
family therapy or this or that
yeah,
in constellations, but there's no doubt that constellations are definitely a new integrated, innovative approach,
yes,
which was
yes,
put together by Hellinger. And also going to these spiritual constellations, this is, as I said, completely different thing, and it's something entirely different. We first, is not psychotherapy anymore. It got out of the psychotherapy field. It's not concerned with particular family dynamics. It doesn't set anything up. It doesn't work on problems. It doesn't have intention of healing. So we are now moving in a different spiritual field.
okay. Yeah, so interesting. And I have a feeling that I want to learn more about this, what you are speaking about, this new way of understanding not only constellation but life, how we are here with each other. I think we have
Andrea, I think
really,
we covered a lot. Yeah.
yes, we have covered a lot. I'm so grateful that I got a chance to speak with you. You have so enormous experience in this field, and you have also seen the how it Bert, how Bert Hellinger has done this work so many years. So I'm really grateful that you came here to speak with me about these things. And if people are interested in to participate in your groups, how do they find you?
Um, well, it's you mentioned before, or was it pre-recording, or I don't know, but there is this Facebook group which I started, Constellations According to Hellinger, where a lot of Hellinger's words are being posted by me and others. So that's a good forum to be in touch really with Hellinger's teachings and to learn through it. And yes, as I said, as we said before, we all have our own path and learn in our ways. We can't, but keep moving and keep learning. And I think we all do in our way, and we all moved in maybe in different ways, but it's all part of the bigger whole, of course. There are a number of people who teach like constellations according to Hellinger, and I also have these programs, the online modules, so people from different places, but hopefully in CET zone can participate in these online modules, which are very experiential. We just there's a bit of talk, but we do work. We constellate, and we make every effort to constellate in this way of exposing ourselves to the forces in the field. So whoever feels called to can just join in, can attend one module or do 10 for a so-called diploma of constellations according to Hellinger. So yeah, it's all on my website, constellatia.hr. So maybe you can put that in a link somewhere, so people can join if they want. But I want to say I really enjoyed talking to you, Jani. There was just wonderful questions and observations from your side, and it really helped me to clarify some of my positions on this, and to see where I'm at now with constellations according to Hellinger. So I really, really appreciate this opportunity. And yeah, I feel like I've got a kindred spirit in Finland.
Really nice to hear. Thank you so much, Alemka.
Thank you, Jani. Bye for now.
Bye.